Russian troops are suffering colossal losses at the front, and the situation is approaching a critical point. If the fighting continues at the same pace, Russia will have to declare a new mobilization, which could become a mortal danger for the occupying country. This was stated by Russian military blogger Maxim Kalashnikov, Obozrevatel reports. According to him, the war has reached a dead end and turned into a stupid conveyor belt of death. The Kremlin is trying not to draw attention to the massive losses, but they can no longer be hidden. If we continue to fight, and many observers and analysts say that we can fight endlessly, this is nonsense. If we continue to fight, we will encounter the need to conduct a new mobilization of reservists, the same as in the fall of 2022, and this is a mortal danger for the Russian Federation, the Russian noted. Kalashnikov warned that if the war continues, Russia will be forced to announce another wave of mobilization, similar to the one that took place in the fall of 2022. However, the main problem will be the lack of weapons and material support for new recruits. There will be nothing to arm them with, nothing to supply them with, and everything will have to be purchased again, like during the first wave, he said, emphasizing that in the fourth year of this campaign, this could pose even greater difficulties for Russia. As Obozrevatel reported, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has launched the largest spring draft in the army in the last 14 years. The Russian Defense Ministry plans to attract 160,000 conscripts. This is more than in any of the previous 3 years of full-scale invasion. The Center for Countering Disinformation analyzed. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry's GUR stressed that the Russian leadership continues to recruit cannon fodder for the war against Ukraine. The main motivation for the future occupiers remains money, but it is becoming increasingly difficult to find volunteers. After all, Russia's losses on the front in Ukraine have become its largest since World War II. However, Putin and the Russian military leadership are willing to tolerate them because they put their goals above the lives of Russian soldiers. The Kremlin's recruitment efforts are focused on ethnic minorities in poor regions of Russia.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Trump administration's new envoy to NATO attended a meeting in Brussels on Thursday with the alliance's top diplomats. According to Associated Press, European allies and Canada are deeply concerned by President Donald Trump's readiness to draw closer to Russian leader Vladimir Putin, who sees NATO as a threat, amid a U.S. effort to broker a ceasefire in Ukraine. Recent White House comments and insults directed at NATO allies Canada and Denmark, as well as the military alliance itself, have sowed alarm and confusion, especially as new U.S. tariffs took effect on Wednesday against friends and foes alike. Since Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned last month that U.S. security priorities lie elsewhere, in Asia and on its own borders, the Europeans have waited to learn how big a military drawdown in Europe could be and how fast it may happen. In Europe and Canada, governments are working on burden-shifting plans to take over more of the load, while trying to ensure that no security vacuum is created if U.S. troops and equipment are withdrawn from the continent. These allies are keen to hear from Rubio what the Trump administration's intentions are and hope to secure some kind of roadmap that lays out what will happen next and when, so they can synchronize planning and use European forces to plug any gaps.
Morgen früh ist aber auch schon wieder. Das ist fest.
Many thanks for looking straight in front of you for 5 seconds, please. Excellencies, many thanks for looking straight in front of you for 5 seconds, please.
The youngest daughter of the Russian dictator, Katerina Tikhonova, is directly involved in the Russian military industry. Her foundation is enriched by a share in the Geoscan company, which builds drones for the war against Ukraine. This was reported by the publication Verstka, which received access to the company's financial statements. Tikhonova, through her National Intellectual Development Fund, bought 10% of Geoscan at the end of 2023. After this purchase, the company went up sharply, probably due to government purchases. Its revenue in 2024 increased almost 4 times to 4.7 billion rubles. Geoscan is Russia's largest manufacturer of civil aircraft drones and software for photogrammetric data processing. Since July 2023, Geoscan has been under Ukrainian sanctions due to the fact that the company's products are integrated into the production chain of military and/or dual-use goods and services. After purchasing the company, Tikhonova's fund stopped disclosing financial statements. However, journalists managed to obtain information about the NIR balance sheet. As of 2024, it increased to 4.4 million rubles. Geoscan positions itself as a manufacturer of civilian UAVs. However, in reality, the company is part of the Russian military industry. It is under Ukrainian sanctions with the following argument. The company's products are integrated into the chain of production of military and/or dual-use goods and services. In September 2024, Geoscan, together with the Prosveshcheny publishing house, developed a teaching aid on drones for students in grades 8 to 9. Ukraine imposed sanctions against Geoscan in early July 2023 due to the statement of Andrei Nazarov, Prime Minister of the Republic of Bashkortostan, that drones for the war in Ukraine will be created at the Geoscan Ufa facilities. Geoscan Ufa was part of the Geoscan group of companies until July 2022, but Semenov sold 40% of the company to Vena Mirzayanov, CEO of Ural Trading, who owned the remaining 60%. The Ural Trading Company belongs to the unknown Khalid Zaripov. The company is engaged in numerous activities from real estate appraisal to beer and meat trade. However, drone production is not listed in its profile.